So the Chi-Coms, Xi Jinping potentially throwing Trump a bone, not a particularly big bone. This is actually more of a favor to Xi Jinping than it is a concession to America, I would argue at least.
Yeah, more.
We're going to have a summit in late September. Xi Jinping is coming over. He might come over for the General Assembly, but clearly the key event, and I think as you and I have discussed, our belief that commies love pageantry. Formal state visit at the White House on par with what King Chuck got a couple of months ago. They're going to eat it up. But I wonder, is Trump being a little too optimistic? Is he being potentially misled by some of the last, China experts? So I don't know, Michael Pillsbury, something like that out there.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's absolutely wonderful that Ezra Jinn got out. I mean, there's another guy in there. We, of course, know my boss, Jimmy Lai, and there's others, and we'd love them to get out too. But the fact of the matter is overall, this was a smart move by the Chinese. Jin was being supported by the evangelicals over here. He hadn't done anything really all that bad. In other words, when you actually looked at the charges initially, the initial charge could have been 3 to 5 years, which basically means a year. So he served 266 days of a sentence. So, he might have done some more, but it's good the Chinese did it. And the fact of the matter is, President Trump's the one who did it. I was watching people going, all our hard work. That deal was cut, and I'm pretty firm on this. That deal was cut in that room when Xi Jinping said no to Jimmy Lai. He basically said yes to, Pastor Jen, and that's a wonderful thing that happened for that family. And I've met the daughter, and I think it's just wonderful that they've got him back. However, not related to them. I think one of the things that President Trump is probably hoping for from Xi Jinping is that he can start developing something for the United States in terms of growing trade. I don't think it's going to happen. I am not of the Gordon Chang view that they're going to fall over tomorrow. I think Gordon actually knows China very well, but I don't believe that China is going to fall apart in the next couple of days. However, the next couple of years even, and maybe in the next forever. It's a wealthy society at certain levels, and it's basically functions okay for the average person. So why do you want to go back into basically what they could view their mothers and fathers told them was chaos of the 1960s and 70s? So they're not going to go for that, in my belief. The other thing is that, quite frankly, they don't have the pressures they used to have on them. In other words, real estate's cheap, housing's cheap. There's a reasonable amount of jobs, food flows fairly freely. So in that way, they're stable. But here's the point. All of that is stagnation. They are not growing. They're aging, getting older every year, the age of the people. They're declining in terms of numbers because their birth rate is really only about 1.1. So they're way off. And they're seeing a real estate bubble collapse where a lot of their wealth is being sucked out of their pockets. So they're not going to be able in the position to buy. Donald Trump has this belief that there's 1.4 billion Chinese. I'd say it's probably closer to 1.3 billion now, and dropping by 5 or 6 million every year. And that is going to come out and save the United States, and he's going to be able to sell them all these goods. The president is getting bad information. I think somebody has to walk in there and say, Mr. President, these are the numbers, these are the trends. Would you build condos there as a developer? And his answer would probably be no.